Welcome back to the Quiet on Set podcast powered by Cineman. I'm Ewan and as always, I'm joined by Lachlan Teely.
On episode 157, we remember that it was this week that Dune Part 2 was meant to be released. I would like to take a moment of silence to remember of its delay.
Very sad, Lachlan. Today we'll also discuss the time travel slasher film Totally Killer, and I caught up on some shows like Loki, Gen V, Big Mouth, and our flag means Steph, and also watched 2 Netflix films, Old Dads and Reptile. And Lachlan rewatched Blade Runner 2049.
I feel like there's a bit of deja vu, because today we're recovering Martin Scorsese's latest film, Killers of a Flower Moon, which we saw back months ago, but now it's finally released, and we're going to touch on it because it's the big release of the week.
Yes, full-on spoiler talks this time, no need to hold back. So let's cue up the intro and get into the show. All right, welcome back, Lachlan. It's a big week. Finally, we can talk about Scorsese's new film without holding anything back. We can talk about all the spoilers, about a historic thing, so I feel like you could easily get yourself spoiled because it's basically...
Well, we could have been spoiling it this entire time, but we came to a decision to keep our mouth shut as best we can, because it was many months until this film was coming out from Cannes, and here we are in October, and it's out, and reviews are out again. And guess what? It's still as good as what it was when it released. So I'm glad everyone's pretty positive on it, and it wasn't just this weird film cult society in France, in a coastal France city that enjoyed this movie, and it was just them. So
it was certainly an interesting experience, being like almost not getting to see it, and the limited amount of screenings it had. I think it only had like 2, so we got in. We were lucky enough. I know a lot of people didn't get to see it in Cannes, even if they were there. So yeah, it was a fun experience to see that in a room full of very excited Scorsese fans. It's still October, and the month of horror is about to come to a close, and Halloween is coming up. And I just wanted to do a bit of a promotion for an event that's happening here in the northeastern part of Switzerland. And if you're from here, then you're lucky, because at the local cinema where I do part of the programming as well, we are doing 8 hours of horror starting at 11 p.m. at night all the way through till the morning. We are showing 4 different surprise horror films, and I'll be there if you want to come swing by at the Cinema Luna in Frauenfeld. The event is also happening in Lucerne, in Zurich, and in Winterthur. We'll have some links below. So if you're in the area and if you're a horror fan, could I get you in? I know you're not the biggest horror fan, but would you attend something like that? 8 hours of horror films all night?
Yeah, let me just fly 24 hours to get over there first, and then 8 hours.
Considering you would already be in the area.
Oh, sorry, forgive me. I thought you were asking me to fly all the way over to Switzerland.
No, that would be a lot.
8 hours, oof. I reckon I could do it. I've spent longer in a cinema. Speaking of Cannes, we spent 8 hours of horror. Well, 4 hours of documentary horror. What was that movie called?
Youth Spring.
Youth Spring.
But there were also a bunch of trailers, a shit ton of trailers actually. And Lachlan, I just linked you like the trailer recap. Was there anything that was interesting to you? There's a whole bunch.
Well, I'm trying to stay clear from some of these trailers, because I'm not going to be able to see any of them early, so I've got to watch the theatrical event. So I'm trying to stay clear of some of them, but I did catch both the Ferrari and Napoleon trailer, because I'm so keen for Napoleon. Like, I'm very, very keen for Napoleon. Ever since that first trailer, I think it really, really roped me in, and I wanted to see more of it as soon as I could. So I saw that, and I thought that was wicked. And the Ferrari trailer I was interested in, just because I wanted to hear the accents, and I think it also looks really good. Accent-wise, sounds terrible, but you've seen this, right? You've seen Ferrari.
I've seen it. It's played in New York, I think, as well. And there's a bunch of like CGI stuff that people are like calling out and basically tearing the movie apart. I didn't really care for like the stuff that is a bit more goofy. I like the accents and all of that. I think you just gotta go in, even if it's a pretty serious drama, just like having a good time. I think then
Yeah.
you'll have a good time. Don't take it too seriously.
All right. Well, then I'm excited for it.
Yeah,
I'm
you
excited
should
for
be.
it. But other than that, I've stayed clear of them.
There's a whole bunch of them. I assume you didn't watch the Saltburn trailer.
No, I'm keeping clear of that one.
I've seen that one as well. I wasn't the biggest fan, but I think it's got like a lot of fun sequences, but it wasn't like
Do you think it's going to be up
overall
my
loving it.
alley?
It's dude, I don't know. I really don't know
Okay.
because a lot of it is
Okay.
like satirical humor. That's
Yeah.
really dry, so it could land for you as like a really well, but maybe you'll hate it because I didn't love some parts of it that were too in your face, which is
Yeah.
just Emerald Fennell's Fennell, like her last film. Kind of was the same way where like it really made the point clear by the end of it, and she kind of overdoes it here as well. And I mean, Jacob Elordi is British in this, which might be really pleasant to some people. And it took some adjustment time for me to get around to that. Yeah, made me almost laugh out loud. But he's not bad. He's pretty good. But no real other big news of the week that at least that I want to talk about. I don't know if you saw anything that do you want to bring up?
No, I saw that it was like a milestone of like day 100 of the strike
Right.
recently.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
today. And that's it. That's the strike news, everybody. No more strike news. Ewan, don't Google anything. Don't Google any strike stuff. We're no longer covering it.
No update needed. They still haven't reached an agreement. There was recently a thing about like the costumes because they basically gave like you should not dress up as something a struck project in a costume, and there's a bit of drama around like, okay, so my kids can't dress up as well. It's a whole mess. They should just figure it out, man. Figure it out at this point. Obviously standing in support with SAG, but still figure it out, man. The big discussion time item of the week is tied to one of our greatest living directors still, and essentially I just wanted to ask you a really simple question, Lachlan. Out of the 40, 50 films that Scorsese has done, what do you think is his best film?
You know, that's not a simple question, yeah?
Yeah, it's a bit of irony.
You said that ironically.
Yeah.
Fuck, man, I don't know, eh? His best film. Geez, there's a lot. There's a lot when it comes to his. First of all, there's a lot when it comes to his filmography. There's a lot of them, many decades, but they also range. They really do. Like, we're talking about the guy who made Taxi Driver and Shutter Island.
Yeah.
Silence, and also The Last Temptation of Christ. And I can tell you for a fact that these are all very different films. Now, we know that he's a gangster film director. He's done an amazing job in that genre. Goodfellas, Casino, Departed Irishman. Like, these are all incredible films, and people reference his stuff all the time. More recently, Joker is just the king of comedy, and and Taxi Driver as one film, as a massive homage to Scorsese's work. But oh man, I don't know. I'm stalling for time because I'm trying to go through my head. Hang on, how about I do this? I've got his film on Letterboxd here. Let me go to Martin Scorsese's Letterboxd page. Film directed and my highest rating. My highest rating is have I not rated any of them? No, I have. It's just not popping up. My highest rated would be Taxi Driver. Shutter Island, because they're both 4.5 for me out of 5.
For me it's a 6-way tie with my highest rated, which I all gave like a 4.5. I used to have Shutter Island as a 5-star because I think right around the time that was out on like Blu-ray or DVD, I think it was pretty much the first Scorsese film I've seen, and it really blew me away and was like one of my favorite films for a long time. And obviously now it's an amazing film, and I think it's the one that is also got him like a bit more of the Academy acclaim, right? The one that he got an Oscar for. And then now it's kind of been looked down upon because he's such an antithesis to receiving these awards because he doesn't love to be a part of that system anyways. So it feels like it's like, oh, you like Shutter Island, the one that's maybe not the greatest, but he won something for it. I wouldn't say that's his best, but it's a really strong contender for it. I haven't seen The Departed in a while, but I think that one is amazing too. I recently watched Raging Bull for the first time. Really complex character study of like just not a terrible guy, but it's so interesting how he does that, similar to like the stuff that he does in Taxi Driver. I think for me, it is still between the most popular ones, Goodfellas and The Wolf of Wall Street. I'd probably have to pick between one of the two.
So, going
But
through
yeah,
these films, I haven't rated a lot of them because
yeah,
most of them I watched pre getting letterboxed. So
yeah.
the only ones I've at least logged with a rating are ones that I've watched whilst having letterbox. However, The Departed is the only one that I've liked on
Right.
letterbox of his films.
Okay,
So
okay.
I don't really like a lot of films on Letterboxd because I leave that as like there's 5 star and then there's oh wait no I liked Wolf of Wall Street as well. Uh, like
Yeah.
those two I guess would be my highest, my favorite because they're the ones that I've
Mhm.
liked. That's my highest like rating on Letterboxd is a liked movie. So
For me, I do have a couple blind spots as well. Yeah, so for you, what do you say? It's Wolf of Wall Street and The Departed?
Wolf of Wall Street and The Departed.
Yeah, probably like if there was, we're not doing a bracket here because it's there's 50 movies or 57 if you include all of the other. I guess there's a bunch of short films in here. There probably would be like around 40 something in here that would be just features. I guess I'd have to
Mm.
count. But I also have a couple of blind spots for him. I've only seen like 14 of his movies in total. Like The King of Comedy, Hugo, After Hours, Aviator, Silence, Cape Fear, The Age of Innocence, The Last Temptation of Christ. They're all movies that I haven't seen. So I do have a bit of a catch up game to do with him. I wanted to actually before The Killers of the Flower Moon give them some time, but I just didn't get around to it. But yeah, Wolf of Wall Street, The Departed, and Goodfellas, I think would be among his best, and that's pretty fair to say. In a recent interview with GQ, he once again got asked the question, and in the interview, the interviewer feels kind of guilty about asking him like the question that he's sometimes gets like dragged across like the media scape of like, ooh, this director is so elitist and he hates like Marvel movies and stuff like that. But he brought it up again. And to bring some context to it, there was a quote that I found really interesting when talking about like these superhero movies, and he said the danger there is what it's doing to our culture, because there are going to be generations now that think movies are only those. That's what movies are. Yeah, I think that is a bit, to me, also a sentiment that I share, that like I get why they're popular and I get why they're great, but it's also like doing something similar to us, like certain social media things are. It's just like the way that we consume things, which doesn't put the blame, I'd say, specifically on individual people who make these, or maybe even not even the studios or whatever, because they are just led by money, like the dollar signs of where that leads. It's then a larger thing with our system and how we, I guess, kind of tick as people, that we kind of are driving into this mind numbing piece of nothingness overall. Not to say that like if you watch a Scorsese film that has ultimately like an infinite amount more substance, and you're like enriched and you're a cultured and well educated person, not, but it's that everyone is kind of doing that, and it's not just a niche that consumes these art house films. It is, to me, a bit disappointing. What do you think about like this recent movies are dying quote from Scorsese?
I think that in the limelight, the mainstream cinema is not dying. That's where it's thriving for money. That's the
Yeah.
thing. But Scorsese has never been a blockbuster director,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I
So
mean, yeah,
he's not.
famously,
He's
his
in a
films
weird
have
spot.
flopped.
His films aren't moneymakers. They're not blockbusters. But
Mhm.
and maybe that's where it's coming from a place of people aren't seeing his films, they're seeing Avengers over his. But for me, I don't believe cinema is dying, like wholeheartedly. I don't believe cinema is dying. I just think you have to go and really put yourself out there to find where cinema is right now.
Oh yeah, and
Um,
he later says it in the interview as well. You really have to fight for those roots, those grassroots, to still be able to grow, and it's still there. It's just like not as much in the center it was maybe 40 years ago as well.
I just think that right now money is poured into particular projects that are
Yeah,
going to try to get a return on investment, but I still think that there are people out there who are getting money for their passion projects after proving themselves.
mm,
We've always had directors who do the one for you, one for me mentality, and we get a lot of really exciting stuff. We get a lot of crap, but we get a lot of really exciting stuff. And I
yeah,
think there's particular companies out there, Neon is an example, A24 is an example, who are giving funds to directors all around the globe with great visions and presenting really awesome stories and giving us people a voice, giving some people a voice to really get out there. The
yeah,
Safdie brothers, like they really came out of their entire like indie shell, and now some are starring in the biggest blockbusters of the year, and some of them are just, one of them's decided to kind of sit back a little bit and not go around that acting route. So it's really interesting that the cinema is dying thing is not so much cinema is dying. I think it's more an oversaturation of content. There's
yeah.
so much. There is so many movies now.
Hmm.
You really struggle to watch every movie that comes out in a year.
Yes, I'm the perfect example for this. I think I've seen like
Yeah,
700 movies this year or 600. It's crazy. It's crazy what's out
it's
there, and it's not
crazy.
it's not all the same as well. It's like there's a lot of variety in there, especially at film festivals. But the week to week, like what you said with like those certain studios supporting smaller artists. On the other side of this, you do have someone. I feel like Scorsese was never someone who had to do the one for you type of thing. Weirdly enough,
Hell
but
no.
in recent years, not A24 or Neon, they couldn't afford the $200 million of Killers of the Flower Moon, or 250 million or something that was The Irishman. That's Netflix and it's Paramount that gave the
Mm.
funds to this. And for a certain type of director, which I feel like you could count them on one hand, you got maybe Nolan. You have, I don't know if even James Cameron would be a part of. I guess he is, that he could
He
do
doesn't make
whatever
enough
he wants.
movies.
He doesn't make, yeah, he doesn't make enough movies, right? Not even Spielberg, I'd say, is like in the blank check area. It's really just Nolan and, in for the last two films, Scorsese. Um,
But not even
that has
Nolan.
gotten that.
Nolan got rejected, right?
Um,
Fairly recently, had to switch studios.
yeah. I guess. Well, I guess he's well. I think he's switching back because they gave him quite a lucrative deal, and for the most recent one, there was a profit sharing thing where he retained a bunch of the first up money that is grossed in the box office. So
Mm.
I think for him, because he's one that's not like, God fucking damn, Tarantino is so incredibly cringe. Gotta say it here again, and not to get political, because we don't really do that here because we focus on the entertainment. But God, that dick is an asshole. Um,
That dick is an asshole.
yeah, I don't like Tarantino at all. Wait, what? I lost my
That's
train of
funny.
thought. God damn it.
That's a great
No,
insult.
Nolan is someone who wants to keep going. There's rumors that he might do something with James Bond, right? He's got a plethora of ideas that he'll do movies about in the future. He doesn't want to like have this so stuck up about like how he's received and his legacy is going to be. He's going to keep making movies, and I think putting that money back to him is not for like the greed of like accumulating wealth, but it's having more independence of what he does in the future. And the more we get that it's not bound to a studio that's just like making terrible decisions that are purely based on what they think is good, and them being detached from maybe some of the more passionate cinephiles and moviegoers. You do get those more mainstreamed projects that are getting greenlit over some other stuff. Those are my 2 cents, and the hate on Tarantino. I'm sorry, but he's just, yeah, I don't like him. His movies are good, but I just don't like it. I don't like him as a person.
Movies are dead.
Movies are dead. It's
Welcome back
like
to the Quiet on Set podcast, where we do TV shows.
the whole like basis of the interview is very much centered around like Scorsese's feeling about his own mortality and mortality overall. So I think that's why like it like cinema is dying. That's where that kind of came from. As
Yeah,
well.
dude's
It's,
old.
Poor
Well, bloke.
yeah, he's 80, but I mean, Michael Caine just retired, and I think wasn't he like 90?
Yeah, he was 90.
So yeah, he's got another 10 years in him. He can do some more. If Hayao
do
Miyazaki
2 more
can
movies.
crank out another one, then yes, let's get 2 more Scorsese films. But yeah, let's get to the stuff that we've been watching this week. What we've been watching.
Great segue.
So, Lachlan, I think there's something that rarely happens. We have an overlap of something that we both watched this week, and it's
Yep.
Totally Killer, the Prime exclusive slasher film with time travel elements. What made you watch this? Because yeah, you're not like someone who just goes
Tanika.
onto like a random. Oh, okay, never mind. Explanation. Got it.
Yeah, there you go. That's all it was.
Yep.
Basically, she was just like, I want to watch that movie that I've seen on TikTok. And she
Bless
like
her.
broadly described the movie. And I
Mhm.
was like, is it that Totally Killer movie? And
Mhm.
she goes, yeah. I was like, yeah, sure. I've been seeing it on Letterboxd because it was popping on the front page for being so popular this week. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool. We can watch it.
Mhm.
And yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much to say. It's a movie. It's fine. I don't think it's bad.
a movie.
I don't think it's bad at all.
I thought it was
think
okay.
It's pretty
I thi-
entertaining.
I think it starts really bad, but then the more you buy into it, the more fun it gets.
Yeah, yeah.
I just I didn't like how quickly it was like, all right, this is Halloween. I was like,
Mhm.
all right, cool, sweet, no worries, it's Halloween.
It's just
And then
Halloween,
it's
but time travel.
And then it's time travel.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, oh, it's like they're making Back to the Future jokes. And then it just became Back to the Future. And I was like, okay, interesting. If I'm totally honest, the middle part of the film is the best part of this film. The opening sucks. The ending is kind of mid. But the actual middle part, the meat of this film is like really fun. And I had a great time. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
That was the best part. But everything else kind of let me down. It's super B grade, and that's the best part about it.
Yeah.
And if you can just buy into it, you'll have a much better time than I did. But it took me a while to buy in. So that's all I have to say. There's not really much to talk about. Like personally, I got in and I got out. It's only a short film. It's only like 1 hour and 45. It's like an hour, like 100 minutes.
I think it's pretty entertaining to have like the clashing, 2023 perspective with like, the late 80s and like that type of stuff. I think is the part that's in the middle the most, and those jokes are sometimes like how stupid every character is kind of funny. How
Yeah.
just ignorant and dumb they
Over
are.
the top.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Unharmful. I just wrote in my review. It's interesting that Liana Liberato always dies first in these.
I had fun though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
There were times where I was smiling,
Mhm.
and
And-
it goes over the top quite a lot, and for me that was exciting.
Yeah.
And if I'm totally honest, we watched 2 horror movies back to back, and I'll tell you what the other one was.
Yes.
And out of the 2, one of them is aspiring to be the other because of how meta it is towards not only horror movies but also to like the 80s and like
Yeah.
the film, the jokes of how misogynistic and just overall how bad the 80s were for particular sex, race, etc.
Yeah.
That joke gets really old very quick.
Mhm.
And I found it quite funny the first couple times, and I was like, oh, okay, yep. Now it's getting a bit on and on, how it's just poking fun of that. But
Yeah.
for me, the film is fun, but yeah.
Yeah. There was also.
Fuck, did I like it more than I thought? Oh, I'm gonna have to
I
up
don't
my
know.
rating.
What did you think about the other slasher that you watched this week?
What, Scream 4?
Yeah. First time watching.
No, I've seen it before.
Wasn't there like one that you hadn't seen? I guess for Scream 6 you ended up watching Scream 4, right?
Yeah, I've seen all the Screams.
Yeah. Okay.
So I watched Scream 4. Same thing. It's one that Tanika hasn't seen, so it was her pick. It's better by itself than it is when you watch it with all of them, in my opinion. I didn't have as much fun with Scream 4 as I did with Totally Killer. I thought Totally Killer was a lot of fun, but I could see where it was I could see where it was trying to be. Scream 4 is in a weird spot, and the film is trying to be like Scream, with Totally Killer trying to be like Scream with how meta it is. But yeah, again, Totally Killer is the better film of the two, in my opinion. I thought that was a lot more fun, but yeah.
There was a reference to Scream as well. It's like, yeah, it could be like Scream with like two killers, and then well, I don't want to spoil Totally Killers. But yeah, and then by the end of this, after Tanika chose two films, did you watch Blade Runner 2049 by yourself, or did you make her see it?
No, I watched Blade Runner 2049 earlier in the week. Yeah. I was meant to watch. What's the movie? Court.
The court marshal. Kane Marshals. We are firemen. That Bridgen. That movie.
That one.
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
Yep.
Instead, I decided to watch Blade Runner 2049 on 4K.
I mean, it's also a worthwhile thing. I think it's just like Kevin who's been pushing you into the direction of, hey, I keep checking your letterbox and you still haven't watched that movie. It's like, Jesus Christ, man.
For whatever reason, when I have to watch, not have to watch a movie, but when people tell me to watch a movie and I have the option to not watch it, I can watch something else instead, like Blade Runner. I'll usually go for my comfort choice, and I rewatched Blade Runner. Yeah, what can I say? Blade Runner 2049. It's an incredible movie, and I love it. And as always, when going into some of these films, I hadn't seen it in a little bit, and you pick up on some stuff sometimes when you haven't watched it in a while. But for me, if someone's like, "Hey, you should go watch this movie," I will go, sorry, did you say Blade Runner? I'll go rewatch it, of course. I have it on 4K.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I?
Did you pick it up because you've been playing Cyberpunk again, like the DLC? Is that why you had like?
No, I have it on 4K.
Oh, you got it on 4K. That's why you wanted to. Okay.
It basically lives. So I have all of my DVDs in like drawers, but it's the only one that lives outside the drawer, so I can always access it. Like it sits on the right side of my tabletop for my TV next to the PlayStation, so that if I ever want to watch it, I just plug it in. Oh, and I watched another thing. I forgot to put it down.
Yeah,
I forgot to because I didn't finish it. I'm halfway through season 2 of The Bear.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean,
I'm up to the hour-long episode.
Is that episode? Well,
it's like episode 6.
6. Okay, yeah.
5 or 6.
Pretty good show. Let us know what you think about it, the whole season, because I think there's a big
makes me hungry.
Coming up. yeah.
Makes me so hungry.
It's
and anxious. Last season made me anxious, but this season's making me hungry. That's all I have to say right now until the season's over.
Yeah. I think the next one is like the one that people talked about the most.
Okay.
So yeah, you're in for a treat.
I've got a 6-hour flight tomorrow, so I'll watch it on the plane.
But yeah, I think that's all you've been watching then. I watched some stuff, as always.
Yeah, you did.
Out in theaters, I forgot to talk about it last week. Fremont, of Fremont. It's actually Fremont. It's just a town in Southern California. That's where this takes place. It's about like an immigrant from, I think, Afghanistan, who has some kind of trauma that she works through, but works in a factory where they make those not Lucky Charms. What are they called? Like the fortune cookies. That's what they're called. And she kind of slides into the position of writing these fortune cookies. It's a really like stationary, just like back and forth conversational thing where you're just like observing people. It's in black and white, and Jeremy Allen White, who's also in The Bear, also stars in it. I think having him second billing is a bit misleading because it's basically just in the movie for like 10 minutes at the end. He's not really a part of the whole story at all. You kind of get catfished there. Yeah, that's out in theaters here in Switzerland, and I forgot to mention it last week, but it should still be playing. And maybe it's even out on VOD soon worldwide, but out now. I watched that little thing that Disney put up for the anniversary, the 100-year anniversary, Once Upon a Time, a studio, and it's the best thing Disney has put out this year. Sadly, it's like a crossover between all of the different 3D, 2D properties animated, just like coming together, and it's pretty sweet. Looks decent.
This is the one with Robin Williams' voice, yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's in uproar about.
Yeah,
Cool. Thought so.
it didn't sound like him for some reason when I heard it, but I guess it
Maybe
was.
they re-edited it to get it out.
That would be typical
A very Disney
Disney.
thing to
Yeah, it
do.
would be a very Disney thing to do. Anyway, speaking of Scorsese, later today watched Old Dads, the directorial debut from Bill Burr that's out on Netflix, and it was very much like the type of, I guess, his comedy shtick, which is calling out PC culture. I assume I've never watched his stuff. He's just not really that appealing to me as a comedian. And I think it comes from a place of being aware of the criticisms of that, but then he puts it to the hyperbole of all of these like unlikable millennials and Zoomer people as like Gen X himself, and he basically gets called Boomer a bunch, and it's sometimes funny, but maybe I don't know how self-deprecating this film was. If it was, then it's a better film than it ultimately is if you read it just as it comes off. But yeah, it's not really that funny. I don't know. Are you more familiar with Bill Burr? Have you watched any of his stand-up?
I've seen some of his stuff, and I do find some of his stuff decently funny. But I'm not a big I'm not a big stand up guy.
Yeah, I know.
That's the thing. I
I,
don't like watching stand up. I
mm,
like going to stand up. I think it's better in person because of the environment. I just don't find stand up on a 2D screen that maybe have a 3D TV. Maybe that would work. But for me right
the
now,
stand
no 2D.
Yeah, I don't watch a ton of stand-up. I think there's one about to come out. Someone who's been in podcasting and in social media for like 10 years now. Noel Miller has one coming out literally on the day this episode comes out. So that's what like one. Well, check it out. But I don't really watch a lot of them myself. But yeah, then
It's because you don't like laughing, yeah? You hate
I
comedy.
I love to just be sitting here alone in my sorrow and crying. Yes, I don't like any other state of being other than
Of
the
course.
post after sun state. Yeah. This earlier this week, someone like reposted a clip from After Sun, just like the ending scene, and was like, "It's so." And he reposted like a post that was posting it, right? Twitter Meta or X Meta, and was like, "Ah, it's so cruel to repost this." And I was like, "You reposted it as well, and now I'm watching it, so fuck you." But yeah, it's just sharing the pain. Anyways, Reptile, like a crime thriller, with Benicio del Toro and Justin Timberlake and Alicia Silverstone. Pretty thrilling, like case of corruption and like a murder, and then a bunch of stuff gets unraveled. I think Benicio del Toro really holds this together. I'm not a big fan of Justin Timberlake as an actor, and the whole time I was like wondering if
How dare you?
coming from a boy band lead to acting, if that's ever in the cards for like Harry Styles, if he's just like a carbon copy of Justin Timberlake's career later on. And then I was thinking, who's the Mila Kunis equivalent that he could make like a raunchy, pretty bad sex comedy with? And that's why my train of thought stopped. So Choo Choo, next up, a pretty decent thriller on Netflix, Reptile. If you're interested in thrillers and crime stuff, I guess it's fine. It's pretty decent. Just quick thoughts, because I haven't finished all of these shows apart from Big Mouth season 7, which did have a. I thought like Big Mouth had a new season this year, but turns out that was just Human Resources. The spin-off show had like a new season earlier
Yeah.
this year, and this one is the one in between. Like the first episode is literally called Big Mouth is going to high school, but not for 9 more episodes. So they go to high school in the first episode, and then they go back to middle school to graduate, and then like the back end of the season is just like summer break. So in season 8 they're going to high school. Just milking this at this point. And it's all right to do an international episode where they like having a bunch of different stories, and one of them is in Australia, and it was by far the funniest one. You probably hate it because it's obviously like putting it to the hyperbole of like Aussie stereotypes, but I found it really funny. I was like, okay, this is obviously them like blatantly testing regions and who would respond the loudest if they were ever to do like a spin-off. There were also like
What was the international episode?
um,
How does it work? How does the joke work for
it's
Australia?
it's basically like it's after they graduate, they do like an in between episode on the 4th of July. They come in like, oh, it's the 4th of July episode, and then they're like, nah, we're gonna do something else. We're gonna do international, and they don't do one on America, but it's the 4th of July episode for them. I don't know. It's like that's the
Okay.
premise. Yeah, they do like they do South Korea. They do what did they do? Brazil.
I hope they realize if they do like an Australian Big Mouth where it's kids in primary school, all it's gonna be, and this is like super not funny to anyone outside of Australia, but it's basically just gonna be Foursquare slash downball, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because that's all kids do in primary school.
No discoveries of their body or anything like Big Mouth is focusing on. It's just them playing Foursquare. Or like all of the
Yeah.
revelations are like within the game
And
of
the lack
Foursquare.
of sex education in school, that's the other thing that they should do. That'd be pretty funny.
I don't think they're gonna make a spin-off, but it's like that sequence was like pretty funny to me. It's overall like a pretty mid show that is worn out. It's welcome. But it's funny at times. It made me laugh, but I don't think it's like worth binging 7 seasons for
It's
this.
had its time.
Rick and Morty also just started, and I don't think I like the show that much anymore. But it's like also I think season 7. But yeah, there was also Loki season 2, which I thought was pretty bad so far. Gen V, the boys spinoff. I think this one's pretty sick. I actually quite like it. It's pretty much like on the same quality as the boys was, in my opinion. Our Flag Means Death, and that one's alright. That's the like Taika Waititi led show where they're all gay pirates. And it's funny at times, how over the top it is. But just having seen One Piece, I'm like, I got my dose of pirates for this year. I don't think I need like anything else here. It's alright. But it's not like the funniest thing ever, and it's like a pure comedy. But yeah, that's all the stuff that I've been watching. So let's get to Killers of the Flower Moon, the latest from Martin Scorsese. So yeah, Lachlan, could you read us the logline for the movie?
When oil is discovered in 1920s Oklahoma under Osage Nation land, the Osage people are murdered one by one until the FBI steps in to unravel the mystery.
Yes.
Again, deja vu.
Deja vu.
Deja vu. I've read this like 20 times at this point.
3 hours and 26-minute long movie is out in theaters now, where they have place for this really overlong showing. I think we are gonna stay clear mostly of the discussion. Lachlan, do you think this movie is too long? Because it's a Scorsese film, I think it earns its runtime pretty well, and from the reception so far, I don't know if it's gonna come down as more people are gonna see it, but it's been stellar so far with an average rating of 3.4 on Letterboxd, 8.3 on IMDb, and a staggering 90 on Metacritic. That's really high because those critics, they are pretty harsh sometimes. It was made on a budget of roughly $200 million and was distributed and produced by Paramount Pictures. Now, this review will be full-on spoiler-filled, so if you want to get non-spoiler thoughts, well, go back 5 months. We already did this a while ago while we were in Gun. We also have a separate non-spoiler solo reviews that you can go check out. But here, we're going to get fully into it. The first time that DiCaprio and De Niro are on the same screen in a Scorsese film, and I had to double-check that because I was like, wait, yeah, that actually never happened? And I guess it never did. Not having had the chance to revisit it, unfortunately, before the recording, you're going off the memory of, 5-month-old memory of the film. What stayed with you after these 5 months?
It's still one of the strongest movies of the year.
Mm-hmm.
That stuck with me. It's a incredible film. You've got it written in the show notes, and this is my biggest takeaway: is that the editing is still spectacular. I think that the film itself, from a structural standpoint, it's nothing without how the film's been put together on the cutting room floor. That is the biggest takeaway from this film, is how the film has has been finally put together. And I have to admit, there's a lot of things that keep you hooked in from a scene level. I think that DiCaprio and De Niro do a wonderful job. Lily Gladstone does a wonderful job. It's interesting how no one since the film's release has kind of popped on that Lily Gladstone Oscar hype train once again. That was kind of a Cannes exclusive where that film came out and everyone was excited for Lily Gladstone to get an Oscar nomination, but now the film's kind of out.
Well, I don't think I think they're still hyped about it. I'm still confused because she's not competing in supporting. She has put herself up in lead, which I don't get.
Yeah.
I don't think she's a lead in this. She's a lead in the story overall because she's like the focus. It's revolves around her and her family. But in the narrative sense, I feel like she fits a bit more in supporting. And I don't really agree with that decision. But yeah,
that there from a hierarchical standpoint, it really does go in terms of what keeps you hooked in this story is the editing, acting, score slash music to the film. I think that was also really, really well done. That's what keeps you in. The story itself, it does unwind and it does get a little bit messy from memory, and I think that's kind of like its weakest point is how the film's kind of brought together, because unlike Ewan has read the story and it is a different, at least the original novel, it is a different point of view that the film is telling.
exactly.
Compared to the original story.
Yeah, because initially, DiCaprio was supposed to be cast in the role that ends up going to Jesse Plemons as Tom White, the FBI agent, because essentially the way that the nonfiction novel works is that it's basically the conversations between Molly, Lily Gladstone's character, and him as they kind of slowly unravel who is doing the killings. And even going into the film, I feel like I mean, I didn't read into it even after reading the novel. I was like, I don't want to know who plays who. I kind of want to go in as fresh as possible, and then it establishes the characters enough where you can see how Ernest is kind of dragged into all of this by circumstance. I think it's not really giving us a breakdown of how he evolves into a person who's capable of murders. And I think in the editing, that's why it really shines, where it holds back on showing us that he actually does this, because then we associate him a bit more with what he's done, but we just see the repercussions, but we kind of held back on him actually doing the murders, but he's certainly behind them, right? And I think that's really smart, because it ultimately paints this picture of how nonchalantly they are just doing racial murdering, based on just opportunity and greed and everything, and how openly they talk about it, like under the surface, all of the stuff that's there that they also bring up, that they dare to exploit them. I just grew really frustrated while watching the movie that they're not more aware and do something about it. But that's just part of the oppressionistic system that they live within, that they don't really have that much opportunity to go out of it. But I just found it an incredibly complex film that obviously took a lot of care of getting the right kind of representation, like leaving the door open to have a dialogue between director and the writing of what to do with the Osage people, like even getting stuff like the garments and all of that, getting that right too. I think there was I forget what it was, but there's thousands of, or 1,000 of these things that they wear over their shoulders. It's not a scarf, but it's more than that. They were all created by actual Osage people. And I think it's just a really nice touch of getting the stuff right. And I think it kind of shows the more you hear about it. I didn't really feel it all the way through in the movie, but yeah, it's just a very entertaining film as well. And it's sometimes oddly funny as well. There's just everything in that, it just keeps it flowing. I didn't really feel like it staggered throughout any of its runtime. Maybe apart from the individual scenes that I didn't like. I think that when Oscar-winning Brendan Fraser comes in, it kind of comes to a halt for me, because still in Gun they had the same thing with that weird audio. I don't know if it was supposed to be like intentional, that it was like this echoey, you couldn't almost hear the people. It sounded some weird audio issue that they had like recording that, but it clearly was intentional because they didn't like change anything. I just didn't like that part of the movie, so it made me more aware of like where I'm at in the story. But other than that, I think it's a pretty flawless film overall, just like on a technical standpoint and from performances as well.
I think that the part that sucks for me story wise is that when Jesse Plemons' character kind of comes into it, the film sort of changes,
Hmm.
and you kind of feel that his character is important to the story, the narrative, but there is no importance given to him. It still focuses mostly around Leo and Robert's performance as Ernest and William, and that kind of sucks because he's quite a capable actor,
Hmm.
and it definitely feels like, even though I haven't read the novel, it definitely felt like his character had a major importance in the trailers as well, a major importance to the story, and he is kind of just at the end, and he kind of acts as this mediator more than anything else between Leo and the FBI.
I think,
And that
yeah.
kind of is unfortunate.
I think he comes in like around 90 or 100 minutes into the movie. It's not like as late as I thought it was, because I on my last rewatch I did check the time to kind of see when he comes in, and I think that's right. Uh, so
But he still doesn't really. He still isn't given much to do.
exactly, as a person, a part of representing the institution of like putting them on trial, but even that like doesn't really happen that much. It's ultimately like, how is the relationship between Molly and Ernest going to suffer from this? I think that's the center of the story that he chose to, like, what he chose to focus on. Because yeah, it's those moments in between which left me like really confused, because she is not really condemning him for what he's like. She obviously does, but then she still loves him. It's like a really complex thing that's going on. And yeah, I don't know how did you feel about it? What feelings did you feel?
Around their relationship.
Yeah, yeah.
It feels a bit forced. You don't really get that loving side with Ernest. That's the thing. Mm, I wish they built more time around that relationship to make it feel more authentic, other than just kind of thrown together. And maybe that's how it was. Maybe that's how it kind of was meant to be presented. Maybe that's how it was back then, where you met this person, you marry them 2 weeks later, and then you're trying to find the relationship. But for me, Molly becomes quite emotional with Ernest later on in the film, and that emotional layer wasn't there for me,
Yeah.
or for at least the relationship that they built, because Ernest is doing all these bad things, and Molly is oblivious to it, of her ultimate slow demise that she's currently experiencing around her family and then to herself. And yeah,
I think it's a
again,
perspective thing. You wish you would have more from her perspective, what she's going through.
yeah.
And we're not getting enough of that. And I felt the same way before I rewatched the film, and then I noticed that like it does take quite a bit of time to show him as a caregiver for her. Essentially, as all of her siblings drop dead and are killed, he slowly becomes the only person that she can trust, and it kind of is creating that codependency that's like also reflected in the way that the system is treated, that they're not like they don't have access to their money. And I think that's kind of a nice parallel that it builds like narratively. And I think it's a really conscious choice that he goes for that. But yeah, I just wanted a bit more from her. That's why like I didn't get why there was such a push for her as like the stand-up performance, because she's amazing in it. I don't think she's given enough to like warrant these big moments, but maybe I guess it's a bit more in the subtlety. I just don't think it adds up to enough that yeah, something's left on the table here. The infamous table that we got to see of the two of them sitting there. I know I know when you came out of the film here, or was it you, or was it Cole who said like on the table, the only table that we've seen for like a couple of months. Um
The picture, the
the
famous
picture.
dinner picture scene.
Yes. Yeah, the first little
Didn't
banter
everyone
scene.
applaud when that came on screen?
They did. Such a bizarre thing. Maybe if you have anything else to bring up in the story, we could talk about that. Other than that, I would touch on the ending. Um, where we
Sure.
basically
We
get
can do the ending.
Scorsese.
We can do the ending, and then we can do awards.
Award stuff. Yeah, sure. We are the biggest awards podcast. We do talk about those.
We're so good at predicting awards on
and
this fucking podcast.
we care. We care so much about
We
that
we
institution.
do not care, but we love guessing and
Guessing is
being
fun.
incredibly wrong.
Well, speak for yourself. I'm really good at guessing.
Didn't I get more than you last Oscars?
I don't think this year, but maybe. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it.
I swear it was this year that I got more than you.
We don't have the documents anymore.
You segue us into the conversation about the ending, and I'll go double check about the Oscars thing.
Cool. I love that. Scorsese talks at the end. He pops up, and I think it's been the basis of a lot of discussion about the film as well. I think we both came out of it in gun, being a bit confused why there's this self-insertion. I think some people, now that it's out in the States, where basically this is more like, US or North American history, that it's kind of depicted there. So obviously they got a closer connection to it than we do, being from Australia and from Europe. I think it's a nice touch overall that he comes in and basically gives us the end of Molly as the, I guess, person that she was and where she was buried. And at the end, there was still an omittance of the crimes that have been committed. It was kind of a lost in history, intentionally and systemically, even after like you got the FBI there. And for me, it was like the way the FBI came in as this under J. Edgar Hoover, who's an incredible racist asshole in the coming years, for not Black Liberation Movement. What's it called? I'm blanking on the name, but all of that happening in the States, where he's really oppressing and going violently against them. It was never like them as the hero that come in and solve this case, because it was pretty obvious what was happening. I think there was just like a collective ignorance towards it, and it's pretty powerful. We talked about it right before the podcast as well, that like there might be like when you said, like there's still an ongoing oppression and crimes against indigenous native people that are still not really covered as much, like especially in these like towns. There's a lot of the time still a lot of crime, a lot of missing people, and it doesn't get the same kind of attention that maybe some other crimes get in other regions. So that's just like an interesting thing to still observe, that like the plight is ongoing of maybe not specifically the Osage people, like as much as it was like back then, but it's still an ongoing struggle.
Yeah, let me touch on that, because the ending, it was it's very jarring to have this fictional film, and then you have this very just this live radio show recording, or play, musical, whatever you want to call it, at the end, presentation of the ending of this film.
Yeah.
And I like meta-ness, just like the next guy, but it is a massive, massive creative idea for you to not show the ending of a story or the ending of a character. And the only reason I can think as to why you would want to do that is you want to show that story, this message that you're trying to send, isn't technically over. And that's the only reason I can think that, other than Mr. Scorsese wanting to be in one of his movies, is to think that they wanted to present the ending of this story quite abruptly, right? It's Scorsese gets up and he's like, later on, Molly would die in a grave, buried next to her parents, and there would be nothing about the murders on the grave.
Yeah.
And that's quite abrupt ending to her story, and that's all you get, right? That's it, right? Film pretty much ends after that. And for people who want to see it, the classic show don't tell mentality is like, why would you just say that, right? But there's a massive creative decision behind it, and the only reason I can think is that they want you to know that while the story of that is over, the actual underlining message of oppression to a particular group of people, and in this case, obviously the indigenous population of America, that oppression still exists,
Yeah.
and that story isn't over. So even though this particular one is, and Mr. Scorsese, the director, and it doesn't matter, he's not playing a character in this. He's pretty much playing himself. He's pretty
Yeah.
much saying this story's ended, but the story that the message is like the message that the story's about, this one is not over yet. So for
Yeah.
me, that's a like over time that ending has become more and more impactful. And when I do get to sit down for a rewatch, because my old man and I are going to go see this when he's back, and when I'm back and we've got some time while it's still in cinemas, it's going to be quite impactful to rewatch that, especially because I've had time to think about it a whole lot more. And that's super exciting for me.
Yeah. I think it's also like as part of that theater play where they basically retell the story and do like these slight little dramatic beats of like sound and like the clattering. Um, it's also a part of it. It's the commercialization of like this pain that we now use as some sort of entertainment. I think there's definitely like something that's happening. It doesn't always need to be like a straightforward message of like, hey, don't remember this, but it's also interesting to depict it that way, because it is a complex thing. Like, how do you highlight something like this? Obviously, we focus on really beloved actors who play like terrible people in this, and I think it's like it doesn't get as much scrutiny as something like The Wolf of Wall Street, which depicts DiCaprio is playing like a total douchebag asshole. And here he's playing a murderous, oblivious, loving, but also ultimately murdering person, and he plays a complex character, and I think that's what's the most interesting part about it, like how openly we can just like follow this guy who's committing heinous crimes, and how easy we kind of eat up just like that true crime thing. I think is something that like is an ongoing conversation that I'm really intrigued by as well. But yeah, it closes well. It opens interestingly. I don't know how you. I don't love like the dong 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 or whatever like that opening is. I think it's an odd choice. I think some people have been really loving it. I think it's just kind of alright, but the score is sick. Overall, I think it's really great. But yeah, you wanted to talk about its awards chances. I think it's one of the big runners. I think it has a shot
What
of
are we
getting like
thinking?
I don't know. It could get like 10 nominations. I think it's like it's got a fair shot in like directing and editing.
The old 10 of them, eh?
Production design, a lot of like below the line stuff, and obviously for Scorsese, a directing nom is likely. I think that Leonardo DiCaprio, De Niro, and Lily Gladstone are likely to get some kind of nomination. I wouldn't be surprised. And yeah, what else is there? I think again, costume design, production design, stuff like that. Editing, maybe even cinematography.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff that they could get. Yeah.
So we definitely have a best picture lock and
of course,
best director lock in. I reckon that's pretty much going to be those two.
Yeah.
Moving on to leading actor actress, Leo.
Lead, yeah.
Yeah, lead, think so, and then you said that Lily Gladstone's going for.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see Lily Gladstone go for that one. Supporting role, do you reckon anyone's gonna be in there, like a
De
Niro or like a Jesse? Yeah, De Niro's gonna be in there for.
Yeah, not Jesse Plemons. I would be surprised if he gets in, but
And do we have anybody for actress?
Don't think there's anyone who would pop up. Maybe no, I don't think so. I mean, the one that stands out is Minnie, I think,
worries.
or Rita. I don't know. One of her sisters. No, Anna. Anna would be the one that I would go with. Cara Jade Myers.
No screenplay. Oh no, we could do adapted screenplay, because it's adapted from the book.
Yeah, that's another one it could get. I could see it like doing a similar Irishman thing where it's nominated for like most stuff, but then ends up going home with pretty much no awards.
Yeah. I think that there's a if we think, man, who else would be nominated for director?
Yeah, Nolan for sure. There's a couple more. Wait, I could go on Gold Derby real quick.
Campaigning for Poor Things. I'm yet to see that.
Yeah, so best director currently on Gold Derby, they're predicting Nolan likeliest, followed by Martin Scorsese. Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, Greta Gerwig for Barbie, Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest, and then that would be the nominees that they predict. But there's also Alexander Payne for The Holdovers, Justin Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, Celine Song for Past Lives, Bradley Cooper for Maestro, and that's the top 10 right there.
We definitely we're gonna see. Yeah, if I go editing, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Killers, Holdovers, Ferrari, Barbie, Air, American Fiction. There's a couple of different ones, but the big consistent three is Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Killers. I'm yet to see Poor Things. Is it as great as what everyone is saying it is?
I think it is. I think it deserves the praise, and it's gonna be a lot of people's favorite film of the year. But some people are also not gonna like it as much. I think Oppenheimer is more universally liked. So I don't know how much that affects it on the ballots that are like, that they're ranked. It depends on where you rank the top films, the 10 films that are nominated. So I feel like it is still a bit more likely that something like Oppenheimer or Killers gets it. But Poor Things, as the recent couple of Oscars have shown, is something the weird can definitely win if a lot of people end up loving it. But yeah, lots of great films this year. The Shape of Water. I meant more like Everything Everywhere All at Once. That could be a bit more polarizing.
Sorry. So you'd say Everything Everywhere All at Once is weirder than The Shape of Water?
I think so, yeah. I'd say so.
I don't think they fuck a fish in Everything.
Well, they made a guy jump on an anal butt plug.
That's true.
Yeah.
But they didn't fuck a fish, Ewan.
Well, I don't know.
Also, I can't find...
oh, shit. You died.
Uh-oh, Discord crashed. Whoopsies. I didn't mean to close Discord. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
In other news, oh god, I did it again. No, I didn't. I just closed it. Oh god, I'm so powerful with my keyboard shortcuts that dude. You deleted the Oscar nomination prediction spreadsheet. I can't find it on the Google Drive. You deleted it.
I didn't do anything. I don't like these allegations.
You definitely deleted it because I can't find it, and you are refusing to let me find the spreadsheet.
Listen, give us your closing notes for Killers of the Flower Moon and your rating, and I'll have a look if I can find last year's thing.
I really like Killers of the Flower Moon. It was one of my favorite from the festivals. Not my favorite from the Cannes Film Festival, but I do believe that Killers of the Flower Moon will probably make it onto my top 10 films of the year, most likely, because I think that it is an absolutely incredible masterclass of filmmaking and an incredible feat from such a great film director, Mr. Scorsese. So for me, I'm giving it a lot of praise, but I'm only on a 4 out of 5 stars. And this might be because I only saw the film many months ago and I might need to rewatch it. But there's so many, Ewan, you know this, there's so many films to watch in a year. You can't go and rewatch a 3.5 hour film just like that on a whim, Unless maybe I should just watch Blade Runner twice. I could probably just watch Blade Runner 2049 twice. Would that annoy you? Instead of rewatching like a movie, I just rewatch like a really long movie. Like I just rewatch Blade Runner 2049 the amount of times that I can in that film.
I don't care if you watch something.
Like imagining to watch what was that other documentary that we watched about Amsterdam in World War II? Occupied City. What was that? 6 hours? 5 hours?
No, it was 4 hours.
It was about 6.5 hours.
I mean,
I could have watched Blade Runner. Yeah, true. I could have watched Blade Runner like 4 times.
Yeah,
in one sitting of Occupied City.
But
no, I think it's spectacular. Everyone should go out and see it because it is an absolute blast. Did you find the spreadsheet, Ewan?
I did, and you were right. You actually got second place out of you got the second highest score.
Ayo.
So I got 14 right, and you got 17 right. So you actually beat me by quite a few points there. I don't know if you cheated, you little cheater, but yeah, you actually did.
How could I cheat? What? Sorry, let me jump in my time machine and go and see who won the Oscars.
I wouldn't rule it out.
If I cheated and I had that ability, I would have put money on it.
But yeah, there were 2 people who got 18 in score, or one person. No, 2. and I only got 14 right. So yeah, you were betting a bit more on Everything Everywhere, and it paid off. So
Thank you.
that's that. I also am
I'm currently seeing if any bets are already open for
for the next.
the Oscars.
Yeah, he feels lucky. Although you are not due right now because you did almost win last time. I'm more due than you are when it comes to betting. I also am at a 4 out of 5 for this one. I think it's definitely closer to like a 4.5 than it is to the 3.5. But there was just something about it that it didn't get like to the heights of some of my favorite Scorsese films, like the top 6 that I gave like a 4.5 to, which would be Shutter Island, Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, Departed, The Wolf of Wall Street, and Raging Bull. But it is still a really important movie. It's a great movie, and it just kind of flies by, even if it's at mini series, short limited series length. Predictions wise, do you think this will be one of Scorsese's highest grossing films? Previously, that was The Wolf of Wall Street with 340 million. Do you think this movie
I don't think it will
make
reach
money?
Wolf of Wall Street level, but I think it will be up there.
Because it's kind of been the year for 3 hour long movies to do well at the box office. Oppenheimer has shown people will show up.
The Wolf of Wall Street is quite an accessible movie. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I think that a lot of people can get around it, but I don't think Killers of the Flower Moon is as accessible because it is a lot darker in subject matter.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, and I think that a lot of people also got familiar with Scorsese through The Wolf of Wall Street. That probably weren't.
Yeah.
It did have that mainstream appeal, and it did really well. I think it did another like 40 million in recorded like VOD or Blu-ray sales, not Blu-ray sales alone. So quite a successful movie overall. But if you had to pair up a movie with the really long runtime, the long movie Killers of the Flower Moon, what would you pick?
How about we go with a shorter runtime film and a film that I really enjoy. I know that it's kind of got mixed feelings by some people, but for me, I think it's a really solid film. It's Jeremy Renner, Elizabeth Olsen in the film Wind River. Directed by Taylor Sheridan, who is of fame of Wind River, Those Who Wish Me Did, 1883. Also the show with Kevin Costner that's not coming to my head right now. Yellowstone. Yeah, that's it. I think that it's a really, really good thriller, and it touches on some very similar subject matter with this film. That the similar subject matter that Killers of the Flower Moon touches on, but I think it does it in a way darker light. Yeah, I really think this is a good little film to double feature it with because it's not long and you can watch it directly afterwards.
Yeah, it sounds good. I'm going with something that it's not a movie for the first time ever. I'm recommending a bunch of things that aren't movies. First of all, if you want to get more of Scorsese, then check out his 23 or 24-year-old daughter, by the way. It's crazy that he had a kid at 57, but I guess men can do that. I guess they can. And he has a bunch of TikToks that she does with him, and they're quite charming. He's a charming old man. There's also an interview that he did with Timothée Chalamet. I haven't watched that one myself yet, but just the opening alone looked quite charming. So if you want to get another dose of Scorsese, then go check that out. I would also recommend the non-fiction novel from 2017 from David Gran, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Osage Murders, and the Birth of the FBI. A worthwhile read. And lastly, because we are talking about David Fincher's adaptation of the graphic novel of The Killer, I would also recommend that. I read part of it while I was on the train to Venice, where I caught the film, and I'm looking forward to I feel like you might be, I guess we're on the same level of David Fincher fandom, where we both really appreciate him. So I'm really looking forward to our discussion of, getting to talk about The Killer. But that's the end of this week's show. In the meantime, you can, as always, much appreciated if you leave those ratings over on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, and leave a like and subscribe on YouTube. But you can also go check out some more content. This week, we do have the recap of 2 film festivals from Zurich and Ghent. Ghent turned out to be about as long as our Venice recap. There were a lot of movies, about 70 movies, I think, that we ended up discussing. And Zurich is even bigger. I talked about 100 movies. I don't know how long that's going to turn out yet because I haven't recorded it yet. There's also an interview with the Blackberry director up on the channel. And we'll also have an interview with Sandra Hula from Anatomy of a Fall and The Zone of Interest soon. So a bunch of those coming onto the channel. Stay tuned for that. And that's basically it. Next week, Lachlan, it's time for The Killer. And yeah, busy fall season. Even though Dune didn't start its release, I think we have a pretty busy schedule with pretty exciting movies that are releasing until the end of the year. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
I'm still doing my minute of silence. That was gorgeous.